shop today on our last big hurrah for a blizzard, I think. It's April 16th, and we're getting a nor'easter. Let me show you. Now that's just a dusting, and we don't expect much. A nor'easter doesn't have to be a blizzard. Nor'easter is when the moist air comes up along the coast up to Maine, and then it whips around and brings the wind in from the north, hence nor'easter, northeast. If we get cold air coming down from Canada, you get a lot of snow, there's a lot of moisture. If not, you have a nor'easter that can just be a lot of rain. It looks like this one's going to be mostly rain, and we might end up getting an inch or two of snow, but it's gonna melt in the next couple of days. It's going to be in the 50s, I think. So, you know, it's just really nothing. Good thing too, because the snowblower is winterized. Well, today I'd like to build a bait that has a spinner on it. Watched a recent episode of Marling Baits. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't. He's a great bait builder, much better than I'll ever be. And he had an interesting design that seemed to flow good through the water, so I think I'll give it a try. So what I want to do here is to make a lure with a wire, two-piece wire with some joints in the wire, not the bait itself, in order to give it a more interesting look. So the lure, I don't know, I have 3.5 inches here. I don't know if I want to make it that large or not. That looks about right. What do you think? About right, maybe? With, of course, an eye. I think I'll just paint these gills on to make it easier and not bother to carve it. I want to make a stripe along here, along with some scales. We'll have the hook here, another one right about here, and right up here, I want to make a loop with wire, another loop, and probably longer than that down here maybe, with some kind of a spinner. Well, let's get started. One good thing is the ice has been out for a couple of weeks now, so I get to go down and check some of these baits that I've made during the winter, and this will be no exception. Maybe it won't work. We'll see. I've been making a lot of furniture this winter out of yellow birch, and I've never made a bait out of yellow birch. So it's a nice working wood to work. It's kind of a hard, soft wood, so it's harder than pine, but it sort of looks and works like pine. So I need the bait a little bit heavier anyway, so I don't want to use a super light wood. So I think we'll do birch. Very rough cut. I always cut outside of the line with this bandsaw, because this bandsaw I purchased when I was 22 years old, so that makes it 44 years old. Yeah, 44 years old. So it does a really good job. It's held up well. I haven't had to do any repairs on it or anything, but you know, it's not a new bandsaw, so I don't really try to go. I could go right on the line if I wanted to, but you got to kind of work at it. So on with the shaping. So this is what we've come up with, and it is the shape that I drew, but with a little modification. I think I've got a little more curve in the tail right here, which I think is going to be pretty good. And I also thinned the tail out quite a bit. Now we have to cut the profile on this. Okay, so I'm going to want to have it, the nose here, it's going to taper up to this point. This will be the thickest part, and then it'll slim down towards the tail. So let's make some marks down here for the taper on the tail, and then let's bring that taper down like that, and like that. So it'll be something like this. Well, I think we've got it. Profile from the top, from the bottom, and head on, if I can get it straight here, and from the tail. What we have to do is take the edges down, carve the edges down, and we're in business. Well, I've got to say, it does carve nicer than pine. It's harder, but it tends to have a much smoother grain to it. But it's not that much harder. I mean, it's not maple. With a lot of woods and pine, they tend to have one grain, so when you try to carve this way, it'll be good, but then you try to carve on the same side in the other direction, and it'll kind of like bite into the thing, so you have to kind of carve it in one direction. But this stuff seems to work good in different directions. Well, I'll be back when I've made a little more progress on this. It's going to take a while. Well, we're down to the point where we can use some coarse sandpaper on it. That's what I got. And we'll try to refine the shape more. So, we've got it down to the finished product as far as shaping and sanding is concerned. Get some coarse sandpaper, finish it off with a fine sanding sponge, and get a very narrow tail. See how skinny that is? I'm going to have to go really deep with the wire because I don't want anything breaking there. So the wire will have to go in, you know, about that far on the tail. I need to cut the bill. It's going to have a short, fairly vertical bill, and to give it some movement, you need to cut the eye sockets. Didn't want much of a bill, just something fairly small. Get that better. Small and at a fairly steep angle. I think that will do. Eye sockets. Now I want some weight in this thing, so I'm going to be using a fairly large bit, and I don't know exactly where this should go, but a good rule of thumb, and this is upside down right here, is to put it just ahead of center. That almost always works for any bait. If you can adjust that and put different amounts of weight in it, you can get different actions. But as a good rule of thumb, that works pretty good. I'm going to put quite a bit of weight in it because I want this to sink. So if I'm not trying to keep it buoyant, it's not a top water bait or anything. So I'm going to try to put enough weight in it, make sure it goes down. Lead pot's ready. I don't know if this is going to be heavy enough. It doesn't feel it. It feels like a floater. I think we'll put some more weight in it. Okay, well I drilled another hole. It's smaller, but it's very deep. It's got a bit more heft now. I've got some lead in it. So I think we'll go with that. I could always drill another one later on after I give it a water test. Time to seal the bait with some super glue, and then I'll go in the house and put it in a pan of water and see if it floats or sinks. Okay, we'll let that dry a little bit and we'll go from there. While I'm waiting for that lure to dry, which will just take a few more minutes, Maine is a place of transitions. Here's one transition. My boat registration came in for fishing. Another transition, the paints go from toting them in and out of the house along with some other liquids to going on the shelf in the summer because they freeze. And these are some of the baits that I made over the winter. There's a plopper up there and a topwater bait, segmented bait. There's one that I have some feathers incorporated into. Here's small ones that I'm planning on using this spring that have a built-in hook and some flashabou, little craw bait. Kind of a little, I don't know, crappy bass pattern, and a couple other just tiger stripes and colorful ones, I guess. This one right here just stays there. That's never moves. As you can see, it's kind of grody. This is my first bait I ever made, and I mixed the epoxy wrong, and it never dries. It's constantly tacky. This is about 1.5 years old now, so it's there as a reminder that, you got to be careful with that. So during a pandemic, when you're retired, you end up doing stuff like this. Well, good news, it sinks. And when it sinks at about this orientation, which is what I wanted. So, enough weight. Time to mix up a little epoxy to put the bill in and the eye ties. And it requires roughly equal amounts. I'm going to mix some of this up to put over the weight because I'm going to leave them overnight. I'm kind of done for today. I often put baking soda and super glue, which works really good, and it's really fast drying, but I'm in no rush today. Well, there it is. Earlier, and I didn't take it out, you may have seen me put a long, straight piece like this in this bait, but I decided that I wanted to give it a little more flexibility. So this will be epoxied in here, and there will be a joint here, and of course one where the spinner is going to go. I think that'll be better. Never made one of these, so I'm not sure, but I think it will be. When you weren't looking, I took and mixed up a little bit of epoxy, and I had sanded down where the belly weight was, but there was a little bit of a dent. I feel a little bit, and of course I've put this this eye loop in with this hanging flexible wire that has a joint. So put this aside. I think I want to make some new eyes for this. I've got some transparent green here that I will paint this with. So we have some green ones, and I think that I will take and put a little bit of transparent yellow on a couple of them, just for the heck of it. The other ones I'll leave clear, because the clear ones seem to come out the best for me. Now, I'm going to put the pupil on these. I've already done a couple. What I do is I take a drill, put it on the grinder, grind it flat, take a little bit of paint, and steady my hand. And put a dot. I find that this works better than just using a brush, a solid surface. And granted, these are homemade eyes, so they will come out looking that way. There we go. Now to dry those. Okay, we've got UV resin on there. Now I'm going to put it in the curing chamber. "30 minutes should be more than enough. This thing is all sanded down and ready for a clear coat. I like to put a clear coat on it. Could use all kinds of things, but just some UV resin just works really good. So I'm going to put a clear coat of UV resin on it, and then we'll paint it after it's cured. For those who ever use UV resin, used to use Alumilite, but you had a hard time getting it for almost a year. So I went to this Chinese stuff, which on eBay is about half the price, and I find it works just as good. The only thing is you can't get it in a big can, so you can't do any dipping. It's got to be brushed on, but that's okay for now. I do like the dipping though. And this will lay smooth and hopefully give me a nice surface to paint on. Okay. Well, the clear coat is cured on here. I wiped this down with some alcohol, which gets rid of any fingerprints, oils my fingers, and also gets rid of any residue from the clear coat if it's a little bit sticky at all anywhere, which it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be cured pretty good. I got the bill taped up, and we're going to start doing some painting. What I've done is I've taken some opaque red and opaque blue, and I've mixed them together in the airbrush, and I'm going to start off with a dark purplish over the top. I've got a little fluorescent violet. I wish I had some transparent, but I don't. And I'm going to go down along the sides a little bit further now. I'm going to put a little red stripe on this guy. Not bad. I'm going to take and put a little bit of gold for some very, very light scales. There, I think that kind of looks okay. I don't like the red stripe on this one as much. This side, it has a better look to it. And the last of the scales is going to be a little bit of pearl silver along the bottom part of it. You know, I don't know why, but with this purple, the green eyes really look kind of good. So, I think I will go with that. What do you think? I don't know. We'll see. Well, here's my little spinner lure. And I think I've got to shorten the length of that tie on the front. It goes good. It's going faster. Clouds are really starting to roll in. It's down there. Looks pretty good. Definitely have to shorten those wires. One more cast.